Okay, so this is the YouTube channel where all these talks will go. And so just be, if you haven't seen anything, you just need to go to Hull Deformity course. This is from last year's talk we have about fracture-related infections. So you can have that, see those, with the pointer. And so that's from last year. And these two, all the talks will go, so just for you to, in future, to have a look at it. There are other talks if you want to see, but this is definitely there. So I'm going to just run through a small story. This is a youngish lady from the hospital and had a knee replacement, got infected. 2 years later, had a revision, got a bit of unstable, there's a lot of damage. He had a further 2-stage revision, and then she developed, again, infection. Wasn't clear-cut, but there was infection. Then she got this CA breast, and which basically means everything was on hold, and finally she got around, and then she's down the line. She's not very old now, a few years down the line, and there you are. So amputation, she doesn't want. So the only question left is a knee fusion. You look at the fusion, the distal femoral is replaced, proximal tibia is replaced. You look at it, comes about 12 centimeters. That's quite a lot. So what we do 2-stage procedure, clean, debride, put the stimulant beads. This is stage 1. Put a lot of antibiotics. And then stage 2, we open it up. This is the stimulant is about as it looks when you go inside the knee. And then because of the graft, so what happens, there's a lot of shortening. So we tend to do is we do bit of shortening, bit of lengthening, and bit of knee fusion, sorry, a bit of bone grafting. So what we put in, they put in a graft cage. So this is a custom-made 3D. Put it in there, and that's what it looks like. And in about, slowly, as you can see, in 10 weeks, all the stimulant is gone. So this is the one way of looking at it, major shortening. So can do it. So there's local antibiotics in. So now, my job is to talk about local antibiotics. I won't take very long because we're running short of time. So I'm going to just keep it very simple and short. So I want to introduce our team first. This is our team. So if you see you met Gavin, you met Ross, Kirsten is not here, and then Joe Bates, who's a radiologist, also works with us. So we have weekly MDTs, and we do clinics, and we work as a team together, and which is quite useful because MDT approach to all these cases, PJI and bone infection is important. Now, I'm not an arthroplasty surgeon, that means I don't do revisions. So my knowledge of PJI is a bit limited. So I'm going to talk to you about today is a bit about local antibiotics rather than PJI specifically. And this is a limb reconstruction team. Liz Molder, who doesn't do bone infections, is a part of the team. We have fellowships. We have short-term fellowships, 1 to 2 weeks, for just to look at it, limb recon bone infections if you want to come. We have longer-term fellowships, 6 to 12 months if you want to come. If you want to short-term fellowships and you don't want to spend any money, and somebody else to pay for it, then speak to Orthofix or Smith & Nephew. They'll pay for you, and you can come and visit us for a week or 2 if you want, right? So what we're going to do is we're looking at some of the options, and we see how it works and how we can use it. So I'll skip the history, actually, but it was quite old. And just the interesting about history is that when you put it in a soldier, Church got so upset that the poor doctor has to go back in and take all the bone out which he put in the soldier's leg because he wanted to obliterate the dead space. But that was a long time ago. So the reason for our biggest concern is that despite debridement, there's a risk that there's some bugs left behind, and there is a risk of infection. And this principally because of the biofilm, how it happens. And the biofilm I'm not going to talk about more, because if you see it, it's a lot of already talks and information about it. So the question you want to ask yourself is, with the local blood supply, can you provide enough antibiotics to be above MIC or above biofilm level to kill the bacteria? So that is the question. So the answer is, despite good vascularity, I don't think you can have ever enough antibiotics locally for you to give to kill all the bacteria, because the amount of bacteria you require, antibiotic you require is quite high. And it's up to about 1,000 times level at times, and this is impossible because you'll have a systemic toxicity. So that's not possible. So how to achieve local antibiotics? So, and this is the reason why DARE can be important at times because of the level, but I'm going to ignore that. So, how do we achieve local antibiotics? And the only way the local concentration can be achieved is by local antibiotics, but that's the only way you can have high concentration. And what we need, something which we can sustain, which can release slowly, and which can give you long-term antibiotic cover. We use PMMA for a while. The only problem is it does, antibiotics in bone cement and arthroplasty does reduce infections, but you can only use heat-resistant antibiotics, and you can only have it for about a couple of weeks, because after that, it becomes a space for it's a substrate for microorganism to stick. But it's for a long time, and other problem is that you need a second surgery for its removal. It's still quite useful actually when you do it for structural stability and support at times, and sometimes when you don't have local antibiotics because they're expensive. In a lot of parts of the world where people can't afford 800,000 pounds of Stimulan or Cerament, then they tend to use PMMA, and it works reasonably well. So what do we need? We need something to give our antibiotics which are release sustained for a period of time, do not cause systemic toxicity, and it goes away completely, so there is no dead material for biofilm to form. This is what we need. So what we have PMMA, which we discussed. We have a lot of absorbable things. And I think of all of them, calcium sulfate is the most commonly used. Cerament has got a bit of HA into it as well. Collagen, there is unpredictable release, so generally not used. Some bone grafts, Heinz Winkler is quite keen to use antibiotic incorporated bone grafts. Not sure it's very popular. He thinks he's got good results, and so a lot of people in Germany and Austria and in part of the Europe do use it. Calcium phosphate, the problem with the calcium phosphate is that the way it is absorbed slowly, the antibiotics release will depend on the absorption of the bone cement. And when the bone cement has slow release or unpredictable release or longer release, then you cannot get enough MIC at the level, and therefore there's a risk of not only resistance, but incomplete incomplete level available, and which not be useful for us, so generally not recommended. Most common is calcium sulfate, works very well, and it's got pretty good results that it creates good antibiotic cover for us to give the support and cure the infection. Oh, well, I'm not sure we can use the word cure, control the infection, because the cure is a very strong term to use for infection. And they give you antibiotic elution for a period of time. This is the for Stimulan, and if you say up to 6 weeks, up to 42 days, it's got above MIC. This for Cerament, up to 28 days, at least, could be more. There's available, it uses above the MIC. And it's not only the common antibiotics, tobramycin, vancomycin we use, but a lot of other antibiotics has been tested, and they work pretty well in terms of a long-term, at least 28-day above MIC level. There are a lot of problems, and Kalala did this study, and he published first with Faraz Haddad and said that transient hypercalcemia is an issue, but also he looked at it, 755 revisions, and they found there's a lot of leakage. But they don't seem to have any major issue in terms of the leakage. And we looked at the work published from Oxford, and there's a lot of leakage, about 15–20%, but doesn't appear to be increase the risk of infection. But we don't know as yet fully, but the current evidence suggests that way. So I'm going to skip all this because we are running short of time. And so to summarize, I think calcium sulfate appears to be the ideal carrier because it gives us all what we need: sustained release, total absorption, and therefore any calcium-based, sulfate-based carriers are supposed to be good. It gives you prolonged antibiotics, which is what we need. And the result seems to be pretty good because all the results from, I have to say, in arthroplasty, the evidence is less and they're not commonly used. Most of the evidence is from the bone infection. But because we end up doing a single stage surgery, patient morbidity is less, so it appears to be cost effective, although there are no direct studies for us to say that it is cost effective at the minute. But the principles of surgery, that is debridement and teamwork, there's MDT, every specialist giving its input from radiology to infectious diseases, everybody, is the most critical thing in outcome. Antibiotics is just the part of it. Teamwork and specialist involvement and surgical technique all are important. And finally, before I finish, I must advertise the deformity course because partly it is supporting this meeting and also is in June every year. If you want to come, please feel free. I think there are about very few places available at the minute, 5 places available at the minute. And also there is a book on the deformity planning. You can only have it free. You can't buy it because we are not selling it. If you want it free, download it. If you want to buy it, thank you very much.